Marcus Webb stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately knew he'd made a terrible mistake. The first thing that hit him wasn't the recycled air or the low gravity. It was a wall-mount hologram of a smiling rainbow that chirped, "Welcome to Harmony Station, where conflict is just a misunderstanding waiting to be hugged." "Oh, fantastic," Marcus muttered, shouldering his duffel bag. "I've been assigned to the galaxy's largest therapy session." The security checkpoint ahead featured what appeared to be the most thorough weapons scanner in known space, flanked by signs in 17 different languages that all basically said the same thing. "Violence is icky, please don't." Marcus watched as the passenger ahead of him, a gruff-looking trader, had to surrender his belt buckle because it was deemed potentially aggressive in design. "Next!" called out a voice that sounded like it had been marinated in pure enthusiasm. Marcus looked up to see his new partner, Deputy Zara Brightfeather, bouncing on her digitigrade legs with the kind of energy that suggested either too much caffeine or a genuine mental health concern. Her feathers were a brilliant blue-green that practically glowed, and her smile could have powered a small moon. "You must be Marcus Webb. Oh, this is so exciting. We never get human officers here. I've read all about your species' fascinating approach to conflict resolution." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Which approach would that be?" "The one where you hit things until they stop being a problem." "Yeah, well, hate to break it to you, Paulie, but I'm guessing that's not gonna fly here." He gestured at another sign that read, "Harmony Station, 4,847 days without a harsh word." Zarara's head tilted with genuine confusion. "Polly, is that a human bonding ritual?" Before Marcus could explain basic sarcasm to what was apparently the most literal creature in the galaxy, a pompous voice echoed through the arrival bay's speakers. "Attention, citizens and visitors. This is Administrator Quillix reminding everyone that today marks another glorious day of absolute peace and understanding on Harmony Station. Remember, if you feel the urge to disagree with someone, simply file a conflict resolution request form, available in triplicate at any of our 17,000 help kiosks." Marcus watched a maintenance worker accidentally drop a wrench, then immediately panic and start filling out paperwork on a nearby tablet. Apparently, even inconveniencing gravity required documentation here. "To Deputy Brightfather," Marcus said, testing the name like it might explode in his mouth. "What exactly does security work look like when you've banned everything more threatening than a stern look?" "Oh, we keep very busy. Just last week we had a major incident in Sector 7 where someone raised their voice during a disagreement about lunch choices." "And how did that thrilling adventure end?" "Mandatory meditation circles for everyone within earshot." "It was beautiful, Marcus. By the end, they were all sharing their deepest feelings about sandwich preferences." Marcus stared at her for a long moment, then looked around at the station's perfectly sanitized corridors, the inspirational posters featuring various alien species holding hands, and the ambient sounds of what he was pretty sure were whale songs mixed with elevator music. "Brightfeather," he said slowly, "I have a feeling this assignment is going to test every limit of my patience, professionalism, and sanity." "That's the spirit. Come on, let me show you to the armory." "You have weapons?" "Of course. We have the finest collection of foam batons, safety scissors, and de-escalation spray bottles in 3 sectors. Marcus followed his enthusiastic new partner down the corridor, past a group of aliens engaged in what appeared to be aggressive hugging, and wondered if it was too late to transfer back to that mining station, where the biggest problem was occasional cave-ins and homicidal robot uprisings. At least those had been straightforward. "Oh, and Marcus?" Zara called over her shoulder, her tail feathers practically vibrating with excitement. "Wait until you meet Chief Counselor Blurp. They're going to love analyzing your human emotional patterns." "Can't wait," Marcus deadpanned, already calculating how many forms he'd need to fill out to request a transfer to literally anywhere else in the galaxy. The armory turned out to be exactly as advertised, which is to say completely useless. Marcus stood in what looked like a daycare center's arts and crafts supply closet, watching Zara lovingly polish a foam baton that couldn't intimidate a particularly aggressive butterfly. "This is it?" Marcus asked, picking up what the label claimed was a non-confrontation restraint device, but looked suspiciously like pool noodles duct taped together. "Oh, that's one of our newest acquisitions. Chief Counselor Blurp designed it personally." As if summoned by the mention of their name, a translucent blob the size of a small car oozed through the doorway. Chief Counselor Blurp spoke in a voice that sounded like meditation music, having an existential crisis. Greetings, Marcus Webb. I sense tremendous negative energy radiating from your aura. Have you considered that your resistance to our peaceful methods might stem from unresolved childhood trauma? Marcus blinked slowly. I've been here 20 minutes. Yes, and already you're projecting hostility onto our beautiful safety implements. Tell me, in your species' primitive violent culture, did authority figures perhaps withhold emotional validation? Look, Jello Shot, I just want to know how we're supposed to handle actual criminals when our most dangerous weapon is motivational posters. Lurk rippled with what Marcus assumed was either offense or indigestion. Violence is never the answer, Marcus Webb. We have developed far superior methods of conflict resolution through the power of therapeutic communication and mandatory group bonding exercises. Right on cue, Zara chirped, her feathers practically glowing with excitement. We've got a code yellow in the food court. Marcus perked up. Finally, some action. What's a code yellow? Someone used the word stupid in reference to the Glorbanian noodle soup. Marcus stared at her. That's it? Marcus, Blurp gurgled disapprovingly. Dismissive language creates toxic communication patterns that can escalate into full-scale emotional violence. We must respond immediately. The three of them rushed to the food court, where Marcus discovered what Harmony Station considered a crisis response team. 6 aliens in matching pastel uniforms had surrounded a clearly frustrated reptilian trader who was gesticulating wildly at a bowl of what looked like purple spaghetti. Sir, we're going to need you to step into our feelings circle, announced the team leader, a being that resembled a walking flower arrangement. We'll start with some breathing exercises to help you process why you felt compelled to use hurtful language about our chef's creative expression. I just said the soup was stupid. It tastes like engine coolant. There we go again with the harmful descriptors, the team leader tutted, pulling out an actual therapy couch from somewhere. Let's explore what the soup represents to you emotionally. Marcus watched in fascination as they literally deployed cushions around the protesting trader. One team member began setting up what appeared to be an aromatherapy station, while another started playing soothing sounds on what looked like a cross between a harp and a coffee grinder. How long does this usually take? Marcus asked Zara. Oh, the last incident only took 6 hours. By the end, the perpetrator had written a heartfelt apology letter to the soup and enrolled in our anger management workshop. 6 hours? For calling soup stupid. I know. Isn't it wonderful how thorough we are? Marcus rubbed his temples and wondered if there was a form he could fill out to request a nice, simple assignment somewhere with regular old-fashioned problems. Like a war zone. Or a plague ship. Or literally anywhere that didn't require him to watch grown beings get therapy couched over lunch complaints. Deputy Webb, Blurp oozed up beside him. I can see this is challenging your preconceived notions about effective peacekeeping. Perhaps we should schedule you for some sensitivity training? Yeah, Marcus said, watching the crisis team begin what appeared to be interpretive dance therapy. I'm pretty sure my sensitivity is about to get a whole lot more training than it bargained for. Marcus had barely finished his first cup of what the station generously called coffee when the alarms started blaring. Well, calling them alarms was generous too, since they sounded more like wind chimes having a nervous breakdown mixed with someone humming a lullaby. Attention, Harmony Station, came Administrator Quillax's voice, somehow managing to sound pompous even during what Marcus assumed was an emergency. We have received an unauthorized docking request from parties who have not completed the proper visitation intent forms. Please remain calm while we process their paperwork. Marcus looked at Zara, who was still bouncing with her usual inexplicable enthusiasm. Let me guess, this is going to take a while? Oh yes, sometimes the Visitor Compliance Department takes days to approve new arrivals. But don't worry, whoever it is will have to wait in the Patience Enhancement Lounge until their forms are reviewed. The docking bay doors apparently had other ideas, because they suddenly exploded inward with a tremendous crash that sent debris flying everywhere. Through the smoke strode 5 figures in mismatched armor, armed to the teeth and looking like they'd stepped out of every space pirate holodrama ever made. Leading them was the scarred Zaltharian with cybernetic implants covering half his face, and enough weapons strapped to his body to outfit a small army. His remaining natural eye gleamed with the kind of malice that suggested he'd never met a problem he couldn't solve with violence. Greetings, pathetic station dwellers, he bellowed in a voice like grinding metal. I am Captain Vex Razorclaw, Scourge of 7 Systems. We are here to rob you blind and maybe blow something up for fun. The response was immediate and exactly what Marcus had come to expect from Harmony Station. A dozen security personnel appeared, armed with clipboards and concerned expressions. Sir, called out the team leader, the same walking flower arrangement from the soup incident. You'll need to file an aggressive intent declaration before we can process your robbery request. Do you have the proper hostile action permits? Captain Razorclaw stopped mid-stride, his mechanical eye whirring as it refocused. What? The proper paperwork, sir. All criminal activities require advance notification and approval from the Department of Conflict Management. Have you completed Forms 8407C through 962F? One of Razorclaw's crew, a hulking brute with more scars than skin, leaned over to whisper something. The captain's expression shifted from confusion to incredulous rage. Are you telling me, Razorclaw said slowly, that I need to fill out forms to rob this place? Oh, yes, sir. And I'm afraid without the proper documentation, we can't allow any unauthorized, aggressive behavior. Station policy. Marcus watched this exchange with the kind of fascination usually reserved for watching traffic accidents in slow motion. The most feared pirate captain in 3 sectors was being bureaucratically neutralized by a being that looked like it belonged in a botanical garden. How long, Razorclaw asked through gritted teeth, does this paperwork process take? Well, that depends on whether you want standard robbery, premium pillaging, or our deluxe ransacking package. Each has different wait times and approval requirements. I just want to steal your stuff and leave. That would be basic theft, sir. Unfortunately, that department is closed on Wednesdays for mandatory sensitivity training. The earliest appointment would be next Tuesday. Razorclaw's crew began muttering among themselves in what sounded like several different languages, but all conveyed the same basic sentiment of complete bewilderment. These were hardened criminals who had terrorized shipping lanes for decades, and they were being defeated by administrative procedure? Captain, one of his crew members, a reptilian with a plasma rifle bigger than most people, pointed at Marcus. That one's a human. They're supposed to be good at violence. All eyes turned to Marcus, who was leaning against a wall and trying very hard not to laugh at the situation unfolding before him. Here was the most dangerous pirate crew in local space, armed with enough firepower to level a small city, being held up by forms and filing procedures. You, Razorclaw pointed one clawed finger at Marcus. Human. Surely you understand the concept of a simple robbery. Oh, I understand it perfectly, Marcus replied. But see, that's the beautiful thing about this place. Violence isn't just discouraged here. It's literally impossible to implement without going through proper channels. You could have the Death Star, and they'd still make you fill out a planetary destruction impact assessment before you could blow up so much as a space toilet. Captain Razorclaw stared at him for a long moment, then turned back to the flower arrangement security officer. Fine, give me the forms. Wonderful. Right this way to Processing Station 7. Fair warning, sir, you'll need to bring 2 forms of identification, a character reference letter and proof of criminal insurance before we can begin the application review process. As Marcus watched the galaxy's most notorious pirate crew shuffle dejectedly toward the paperwork station like kids heading to detention, he realized something important. Harmony Station hadn't just banned violence. They had discovered something far more powerful than any weapon in existence. They had weaponized red tape. 20 minutes later, Marcus found himself in the unprecedented position of watching space pirates fill out forms in triplicate while being supervised by a security officer who kept offering them herbal tea and emotional support cookies. The sight was so surreal that he briefly wondered if someone had slipped hallucinogens into the station's air supply. Captain Razorclaw was hunched over Processing Station 7, his cybernetic implants sparking with what Marcus assumed was either rage or a software update. The feared scourge of 7 systems was currently struggling with question 15. Please describe in 50 words or less how your planned criminal activity will contribute to your personal growth journey. This is ridiculous. Razorclaw slammed his clawed fist on the desk, which immediately triggered a small alarm and caused 3 counselors to appear with clipboards and concerned expressions. Sir, aggressive desk interaction requires an additional violence against furniture form, one of them chirped helpfully. That's when Marcus had his epiphany. A slow smile spread across his face as he realized that while Harmony Station had banned physical violence, they had accidentally created the perfect environment for a completely different kind of warfare, one that humans had been perfecting since the dawn of civilization. Psychological warfare. Marcus strolled over to the processing station with the casual confidence of someone who had just discovered his opponent's greatest weakness. Having trouble there, Captain? Razorclaw looked up, his remaining organic eye blazing with fury. Your species is supposed to understand violence, human. Why aren't you helping me burn this place down? Oh, I am helping, Marcus said, his tone so conversational it could have been discussing the weather. I'm helping you realize just how incredibly pathetic this whole situation has become. The pirate captain's cybernetic eye whirred dangerously. Excuse me? I mean, look at yourself. The great Captain Vex Razorclaw, terror of the shipping lanes, reduced to asking for help filling out a form that a kindergartner could complete. That's some real fierce pirate energy right there. Razorclaw's crew members looked up from their own paperwork, sensing something shift in the atmosphere. Marcus was just getting started. Let me get this straight. You flew here in what I'm assuming is a fairly expensive ship, spent probably weeks planning this robbery, gathered up your crew of hardened criminals, and your master plan was defeated by administrative procedure. That's either incredibly bad luck or spectacularly poor planning. I'll kill you for your insolence, Razorclaw snarled, rising from his chair. With what? Your strongly worded letter of criminal intent? Marcus gestured at the half-completed form. Face it, Captain, you're not exactly striking fear into anyone's hearts right now. You're more like a really aggressive customer service complaint. One of the crew members, the reptilian with the oversized plasma rifle, shifted uncomfortably. Captain, maybe we should just... Maybe you should what? Marcus turned his attention to the new target. Give up? Go home? Tell your criminal buddies that you were outsmarted by office supplies? I'm sure that'll do wonders for your reputation in the underworld. The reptilian's scales flushed an embarrassed green. Deputy Zara appeared at Marcus's elbow, her feathers practically vibrating with excitement. Marcus, are you using advanced human psychological warfare techniques? Something like that, bright fellow. Marcus turned back to Razorclaw, who was now gripping his form so tightly it was starting to crumple. You know what the really sad part is, Captain? You probably told everyone back at whatever dive bar you hang out in that this was going to be the big score. The easy job. Rob some peaceful station, retire to a nice planet somewhere. Instead, you're going to go down in pirate history as the crew that was defeated by paperwork. We weren't defeated, Razorclaw protested, but there was a noticeable crack in his voice. Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're filling out forms instead of robbing anyone. That's not exactly what I'd call a successful criminal operation, more like an administrative internship. Marcus could see the doubt creeping into the pirates' expressions. These were beings who had built their entire identity around being feared and dangerous, and he was systematically dismantling that self-perception with nothing but words and brutal honesty. Tell me, Captain, Marcus continued, his voice taking on the tone of someone genuinely curious about a fascinating anthropological specimen. What's your backup plan here? Are you going to storm out dramatically? File an angry complaint with the Department of Criminal Affairs? Write a scathing review on Space Yelp? Zara clapped her hands together with delight. Oh, or maybe they could try our conflict resolution workshop. I bet they have lots of unprocessed feelings about their career choices. The big brute with more scars than skin looked around nervously. Captain, maybe the bird lady has a point. I mean, when was the last time any of us actually enjoyed being pirates? It's mostly just flying around in uncomfortable ships and eating rations that taste like recycled... Shut up, Grax, Razorclaw snapped, but Marcus could see the foundation starting to crumble. No, let him talk, Marcus said encouragingly. This is clearly someone who's been doing some real self-reflection. Go ahead, Grax. When did you first realize that piracy might not be fulfilling your potential? And that's when Marcus knew he had them. Because the most dangerous thing you can do to someone whose entire identity is built on being tough and scary isn't to fight them. It's to get them to question whether they actually want to be tough and scary in the first place. Within an hour, Marcus had turned Harmony Station into the galaxy's first weaponized therapy session. What started as individual psychological warfare had evolved into something far more beautiful and terrifying. A coordinated campaign of aggressive emotional support. Attention all station personnel, Marcus announced over the comm system, having somehow convinced Administrator Quillix that this was an approved conflict resolution technique. We have visitors who seem to be experiencing some serious career dissatisfaction. I'm calling for all hands to help them work through their feelings. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Apparently, a station full of beings dedicated to peaceful resolution had been waiting their entire lives for an opportunity to aggressively help someone, whether they wanted it or not. Marcus watched from the central plaza as the campaign unfolded with military precision. The Glorbanian chef who'd been insulted earlier approached one of the pirates, a scarred Vorthon with enough weapons to arm a small militia. "Excuse me," the chef said in his melodious voice, "but I couldn't help noticing your combat gear. That must be very heavy to carry around all the time. Have you considered that your reliance on weapons might be compensating for feelings of inadequacy stemming from childhood neglect? The Vorthan pirates stared at him in horror. What? No, I just like shooting things. Of course you do. And shooting things probably makes you feel powerful and in control, doesn't it? But what happens when the shooting stops? Do you feel empty inside? Like you're just going through the motions of being dangerous because it's all you know how to be? Meanwhile, a group of Zentorian traders had cornered Grax, the scarred brute, and were pelting him with the most aggressively supportive small talk Marcus had ever witnessed. You know, Grax, one of them was saying while nodding enthusiastically, that's a very interesting scar on your face. It tells a story of survival and resilience. Have you ever considered that your scars represent your journey toward emotional growth, rather than just evidence of poor life choices? I got it in a bar fight over a card game, Grax mumbled, looking increasingly uncomfortable. Exactly. And what does that say about your relationship with risk-taking behaviors? Were you perhaps seeking external validation through conflict because you struggled to find internal self-worth? I wanted the money he owed me. Of course. And money represents security, which suggests you were acting out of fear rather than genuine aggression. That's actually very emotionally mature of you. Rax looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. But the real masterpiece was happening at Processing Station 7, where Chief Counselor Blurp had oozed over to personally assist Captain Razorclaw with his forms. The translucent blob was radiating therapeutic energy like a motivational speaker having a religious experience. Captain Razorclaw, Blurp gurgled warmly, I notice you've been stuck on question 23 for quite some time. What childhood experiences led you to pursue a career in space piracy? This is clearly bringing up some deep-seated issues for you. I don't have issues, Razorclaw snapped, his cybernetic implants sparking. I'm a feared criminal. Of course you are. And that fear you inspire in others is really just a reflection of the fear you carry inside yourself, isn't it? The fear that maybe, deep down, you're not as scary as you think you are. Razorclaw's remaining organic eye twitched. It's okay to be vulnerable, Captain. In fact, vulnerability is the foundation of all meaningful relationships. When was the last time you had a genuine emotional connection with someone? Not based on fear or intimidation, but real intimacy. I'm a pirate. I don't do intimacy. But why not? What happened in your past that made you believe intimacy was dangerous? Were you hurt by someone you trusted? Marcus had to admire Blurp's technique. The counselor was like a thermal detonator of emotional excavation, and Razorclaw was cracking under the pressure of aggressive empathy. Zara bounced up to Marcus, practically glowing with excitement. Marcus, this is amazing. Look how much everyone's engaging with the therapeutic process. She gestured toward a maintenance worker who was explaining to one of the pirates how his choice to carry 17 different weapons suggested an inability to commit to any single solution, while a group of shop owners had started an impromptu intervention about the correlation between criminal behavior and unresolved daddy issues. The Claxonian philosophy students just started a debate circle about whether piracy represents a rejection of societal norms or a cry for attention, Zara continued. And the yoga instructors are offering to help them work through their physical tension patterns. Marcus watched as a purple-skinned Claxonian approached the reptilian pirate with the oversized plasma rifle. Friend, I notice you carry a weapon that's disproportionately large compared to your body size. In our philosophical tradition, this suggests you're trying to fill an emotional void with material possessions. Have you considered that your plasma rifle might be a metaphor for the love you never received from your father? The reptilian scales were now cycling through several colors that Marcus was pretty sure indicated extreme psychological distress. It's just a gun. It shoots things. Why does everyone keep talking about my childhood? Because your childhood shaped your relationship with violence as a coping mechanism. It's beautiful that you're finally ready to confront these patterns. Even Administrator Quillex had joined the effort, though his contribution was more bureaucratically sadistic than therapeutically helpful. He'd appeared with a stack of additional forms that were apparently required for emotional processing during criminal activity. Captain Razorclaw, Quillex announced pompously, I'm afraid your current aggression permit doesn't cover the psychological distress you're experiencing during the commission of your intended crimes. You'll need to file a supplemental mental health impact assessment before we can proceed with your robbery application. That was the moment Marcus realized they'd won. Not through superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but through the most devastating weapon in the human arsenal, the unstoppable force of people who genuinely want to help you work through your problems, whether you want them to or not. Captain Razorclaw stood up slowly, his form half completed and crumpled in his fist, looked around at the dozens of station residents, who were all smiling at him with the kind of aggressive compassion usually reserved for intervention programs, and did something that Marcus was pretty sure had never happened in pirate history. He started crying. "I just wanted to retire," Razorclaw sobbed, his cybernetic implants flickering with what appeared to be system overload. "I wanted one last big score so I could buy a little place on Risa and maybe learn to grow vegetables. But everything's so complicated now. There's paperwork for everything, and you're all so nice and it's making me question my entire life." The station's residents responded to this breakdown with the kind of coordinated therapeutic swarming that would have made professional counselors weep with pride. Within seconds, Razorclaw was surrounded by supportive aliens offering tissues, herbal tea, and unsolicited but well-meaning advice about career transitions. Marcus leaned against the wall and watched the most feared pirate crew in 3 sectors get aggressively helped through their emotional problems by a space station full of beings who had weaponized caring. It was beautiful, terrifying, and absolutely the most human thing he'd ever seen accomplished, without throwing a single punch. "Right, Feather," he said to Zara, who was bouncing with barely contained glee. "I think we might actually be good at this whole peaceful resolution thing." "Of course we are. Humans are natural therapists, you just use sarcasm instead of active listening." Marcus considered this assessment and realized it was probably the most accurate description of human psychology he'd ever heard. 3 hours later, Marcus stood in Administrator Quillick's office watching the most surreal surrender ceremony in galactic history unfold through the viewport. Captain Vex Razorclaw, scourge of 7 systems and terror of the shipping lanes, was currently sitting in a circle with his crew and a dozen station counselors, participating in what Chief Counselor Blurp had enthusiastically dubbed a feelings-sharing summit. "I never realized how much anger I was carrying about my father's disapproval of my career choices," Razorclaw was saying, his voice thick with emotion. "When he told me I'd never amount to anything, I think I internalized that message and started acting out through criminal behavior." "That's a beautiful breakthrough, Vex," Blurp gurgled supportively. "Can you tell the group how that makes you feel right now? Validated but also terrified of change?" The entire circle erupted in supportive applause, and Marcus had to grip the windowsill to keep from laughing out loud. The most feared pirate crew in local space had been completely neutralized by group therapy. "Remarkable work, Officer Webb," Administrator Quillick said, his pompous tone somehow managing to make praise sound condescending. "Your unconventional approach to conflict resolution has exceeded all expectations. I shall be filing a commendation report with the Galactic Peacekeeping Authority immediately." "Gee, thanks," Marcus replied, not bothering to hide his sarcasm. "I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear that we defeated space pirates with aggressive emotional support and weaponized caring." "Indeed. In fact, I've already composed the preliminary report. Harmony Station successfully neutralizes criminal threat through innovative application of therapeutic intervention protocols, demonstrating the superiority of our peaceful conflict resolution methods." Marcus turned away from the viewport to stare at Quillick's. The administrator was practically glowing with self-satisfaction, already taking credit for what had happened. Of course he was. "Let me get this straight," Marcus said slowly. "You're going to report that your peaceful methods defeated the pirates?" "Naturally. The station's commitment to nonviolence and therapeutic communication created the perfect environment for this success." "Uh-huh. And I suppose my contribution was just following your brilliant leadership?" "Well, I wouldn't want to diminish your role as the implementing officer, but yes, essentially you were executing station policy as designed." Marcus looked at Quillick's for a long moment, then smiled the kind of smile that should have come with a warning label. "You know what, Administrator? You're absolutely right." Quillick's preened visibly. "I'm gratified that you recognize the wisdom of our approach." "Oh, I do. I especially recognize the wisdom of taking credit for a strategy that involved systematically destroying the pirates' self-esteem through coordinated psychological warfare and aggressive sarcasm. I'm sure the Galactic Peacekeeping Authority will be fascinated to learn that Harmony Station's official policy is to weaponize therapy and defeat criminals by making them cry." The administrator's expression began to shift as he processed the implications of what Marcus was saying. "Because that's what happened here, isn't it?" Marcus continued conversationally. "We didn't peacefully resolve anything. We psychologically brutalized a group of criminals until they had emotional breakdowns. We turned an entire station full of residents into an army of unwilling therapists who attacked the pirates with aggressively helpful advice until they surrendered. That's not peaceful conflict resolution, Quillick's. That's psychological warfare with a smiley face painted on it." Quillix's mouth opened and closed several times without producing any sound, like a fish trying to process calculus. "So by all means," Marcus said, settling into a chair with the satisfied air of someone who had just checkmated an opponent. "File that report. Tell them all about how Harmony Station's commitment to non-violence led to us defeating space pirates by giving them collective therapy until they cried. I'm sure that'll play great with the review board." The administrator deflated like a punctured balloon. Perhaps we should describe the incident as a more traditional surrender." "Now you're thinking clearly." A soft chime announced Deputy Zara's arrival, and she bounced into the office with her usual supernatural enthusiasm. "Marcus, the pirates want to talk to you." "What about?" "Captain Razorclaw says he wants to thank you personally for helping him realize he was living an inauthentic life." Marcus followed Zara back to the plaza, where he found the pirate crew looking like they'd just completed an intensive rehabilitation program. Which, he supposed, they essentially had. Captain Razorclaw approached him with the kind of nervous energy usually associated with people meeting their heroes. "Officer Webb," the former scourge of 7 systems, said earnestly, "I wanted to express my gratitude for your intervention today. Your direct communication style helped me recognize some very destructive patterns in my behavior." "You're welcome," Marcus replied, still trying to process the surreal nature of being thanked by someone he'd essentially bullied into an existential crisis. "I've decided to take Chief Counselor Blurp's advice and enroll in the station's career counseling program," Razorclaw continued. "They think I might have a natural aptitude for conflict mediation, given my experience with high-stress situations." Marcus blinked. "You want to become a counselor?" "Apparently I have what they call natural empathy, masked by defensive aggression patterns. Who knew?" Before Marcus could respond, Grax shuffled forward with the awkward demeanor of someone who had recently discovered feelings. "And I'm thinking about that trade school suggestion you made. Turns out I've always been interested in hydroponics. There's something peaceful about helping things grow, instead of blowing them up." The reptilian pirate nodded enthusiastically. "The philosophy students convinced me that my fascination with weapons might actually represent a deeper interest in engineering and problem-solving. I'm going to audit some classes at the station's technical college." Marcus looked around at the group of former criminals who were now discussing their newfound self-awareness and career aspirations with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for religious conversions. "Well," he said finally, "I guess that's one way to reduce crime in the sector." "Marcus," Zara said, her feathers practically glowing with pride, "you've discovered something amazing. You've figured out how to fight crime without fighting at all." As Marcus watched Captain Razorclaw get into an animated discussion with Chief Counselor Blurp about the therapeutic applications of his intimidation skills, he realized something profound had happened here. Harmony Station hadn't just banned violence, they had accidentally created the perfect environment for a completely different kind of warfare, one that didn't require weapons or bloodshed, just the devastating precision of people who understood exactly which psychological buttons to push. And apparently humans were naturally gifted at psychological button-pushing. Who would have thought? "You know what, Brightfever?" Marcus said, watching a group of former space pirates discuss their feelings in a supportive circle while station residents offered them career advice and herbal tea. "I think I'm going to like it here after all." "Really? Even without any traditional weapons or exciting violence?" Marcus grinned, the kind of grin that suggested he had just discovered his true calling in life. "Trust me, after today I'm pretty sure we don't need weapons. We've got something much more dangerous." "What's that?" "A space station full of people who genuinely want to help you work through your problems." Zara tilted her head in confusion. "But that's a good thing, isn't it?" "Right, Feather," Marcus said, still grinning as he watched the most feared pirate crew in 3 sectors get aggressively supported through their career transitions. "That's the most terrifying thing in the galaxy." And somewhere in the back of his mind, Marcus made a mental note to never, ever get on the wrong side of Harmony Station's conflict resolution protocols. Because apparently, when you banned violence, you didn't eliminate conflict. You just made it infinitely more personal.